Hello, Chief. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Now, I'm going to introduce to our audience Pablo Barreto,
Yes,
who is our new fire chief from Watsonville.
that's
So
correct. Yes.
great to have you on the show.
I'm very happy to be here. I appreciate your time.
Yeah. So you've just been on city payroll for a
Yes.
few weeks, came from Watsonville. So what struck you about wanting to come to our city
Sure.
and contribute? So.
Well, hey, obviously it's a career move for me. It's a developmental move for me personally as I continue my career in the fire service. I really enjoy management.
Yeah.
I really enjoy being a public servant. And this ultimately role as a fire chief is a very important role. It's very political as well as community service, as well as responsibility to the fire chiefs and making sure that they have everything they need to be safe. And ultimately, there's a lot of similarities between Salinas and Watsonville, and I really felt it was a fairly easy transition for me personally. Ultimately, it's kind of like a neighbor, and so I was able to come to Salinas with a lot of comfort as well as support from the community and the firefighters, but also ultimately my family supporting me, which is the biggest support system I need. And so I felt it was basically going from one family to another, and it felt very comfortable.
Great. So tell us about your career, sort of leading up to this decision and coming to the city of Salinas.
Sure.
Kind of briefly about your background and how you got into fire service. And
Sure. Years ago, I had a big interest of the fire service, but it was very tough. Back in the early 90s, late 80s, it took about almost anywhere from 5 to 10 years to get hired on in the fire service. So it was very competitive. But I really felt that once I started going to the community college in Contra Costa County, I felt it was important to get my degree before I continued in the fire service. And at that point, I decided to go to school, and I transferred to California State University, Sacramento, where I achieved a Bachelor's of Science with a marketing concentration.
Great.
And then from there, I continued looking into the fire service, but I really enjoyed management, so I started off from there. Eventually was hired on by the Marriott Management Corporation, and then I was part of the hospitality division. And from that, I was in charge of housekeeping departments at different hospitals throughout the Bay Area, and eventually landed me in Watsonville. And that's what brought me to the Central Coast. And from there, I basically fell in love with the Central Coast and really bonded with the small town of Watsonville and the farm community and how hard the workers worked, as well as the difficulties that occurred in a small county. And eventually had an opportunity to volunteer at a local fire department called the Freedom Fire District. And from there, I was able to get a position and responded from home and helped supported the one-person fire department that was staffed on a daily basis, and really learned about public service. And from that point, I really enjoyed how much a small department gave to their community. The firefighters there were very active in the community, so that's that component of public relations. And so we were very active at different events. Eventually I was able to gain a position as a limited term firefighter, and eventually that brought me to a full-time position when 2 fire districts joined together. And at that point I became the union president and helped merge the 2 fire departments, which was City of Watsonville, and eventually CAL FIRE came in to absorb some of the area. And I saw the political component of it, as well as the needs of the firefighters and the wants, but also ensuring a smooth transition so that the community didn't feel any sort of level of service change. And with the City of Watsonville, they did an excellent job. CAL FIRE did an excellent job ensuring as well as improving service. At the time, we went from 1 firefighter on duty to 2 firefighters on duty at each station, so the Salsa Puede. So that was a big improvement for that area. And then in time, that gave me an opportunity to apply for either CAL FIRE or Watsonville, City of Watsonville. And I chose City of Watsonville because I really liked the small town environment. CAL FIRE is an excellent department, and obviously they're statewide, lots of opportunities, but I really enjoyed staying local. And in time, I grew within the department, became a fire captain for several years, and then eventually became a division chief. From that, I really enjoyed the training component, which I started in training, helped out with some firefighter hiring, academies, and eventually I was given the opportunity to be the fire marshal for the city. And that's where I really learned the uniqueness about how the fire department, the city, and the businesses work together.
Right.
And that is that communication, understanding the importance of businesses within the city and how they generate tax revenue. But ultimately, as a fire marshal, it's public safety and ensuring the businesses are complying, but also assisting them. Not everybody's perfect, and that was the part where I would work with them to help them get to compliance. And we would, if we needed to, there were some changes, then we assisted. And then there was also the enforcement component. Eventually in time, I was able to have the opportunity to be a fire chief. And I jumped on that opportunity within Watsonville, and I loved it. It was a great opportunity, you know, the ultimate position within a small community that I grew up in. And I grew up in the fire service in Watsonville, and I was very honored to be there. And then slowly in time, I spent a lot of time helping out other departments, working with Monterey County, Salinas, North Monterey County. It's really that neighborly thing the fire departments do, is help each other out. And obviously the fire department does mostly emergency medical services is the key component nationwide. And so that's our number one public responsibility. And we did an excellent job there. And I know City of Salinas, the fire department there, the firefighters do an excellent job here. And that's kind of the interest that I had, is there are opportunities, challenges, but it's also getting a bigger opportunity to experience management, the politics, public relations, and community service. And Salinas has an amazing opportunity for me to learn, and also maybe change a few things internally as well as externally for the department.
Well, there are a number of things that appear to be happening, not immediately, but they've been happening over time. Is like you mentioned, emergency medical services seems to be the dominant you know, service that fire and first responders, you know, carry out now. Fire suppression is still important, but maybe not as often called for fire suppression services versus emergency medical. So that's a shift in how things are going, both locally and nationally. Do you see some other trends there in terms of the fire service, and particularly as it goes from maybe what was sort of a traditional model to maybe getting into new areas, and particularly in the emergency medical area?
Sure, there's so many components in the fire service today. And the reduction in fires is as a result of fire prevention. And fire prevention, education, technology for the way houses are being built, it's changing. And so that's the component with public education, for example, smoke detectors, early warning systems, new constructions with the fire sprinklers, suppression systems that are designed in all different avenues, restaurants, and also homes. And that's the part where the fire department is seeing a big reduction nationwide. So new construction, new technology helps suppress fires and keep them smaller. As far as the emergency medical services, it's becoming highly technical. We are basically seeing emergency rooms out on the streets, and that's what our firefighters are trained to, in that level. And the technology is amazing, and I'll use an example. The heart monitors the firefighters use today are virtually the same technology that's in an emergency room. And that technology is able to basically diagnose a patient within the first few minutes, and that technology is important. It saves lives. That technology, the medication, the drugs, is becoming more complex with further regulations. And so that's where the fire departments are having to invest in their programs to make sure they're compliant not only with local laws but now federal laws. And so that's changes what we do, what we can do, but it also adds a lot of complexity of what our firefighters are needing to train on. And the firefighters are responsible for maintaining that training.
Right.
And it becomes to transporting as well. Transporting is also very technical and
Right.
a lot of responsibilities to get those patients to the hospital as quick as possible with services by a provider. Our firefighters participate in that as well, and so they become part of the team transporting the patients to the hospital. And ultimately, it becomes a joint venture. And so we're seeing more and more nationwide going back to the days of the fire departments transporting, working very close with the transport providers. But even the transport providers are having to adjust their services because the cost of transporting a patient is becoming astronomical.
Right.
And that's something that the fire departments and the transports as well as the counties are going to have to evaluate how to provide that very critical need for our patients.
Right.
And we have a very unique ability within Salinas, not too many small counties, and I should say Monterey County is very large, but for Salinas to have a trauma center is an amazing,
Right.
amazing benefit for our citizens and visitors of Salinas. And so utilizing that saves time and money for the patients.
Right.
And so that's the complexity. It is becoming very complex. It's not like it was 20 years ago.
Right. So one of the things you're undertaking, Chief, is the standards of making the community risk assessment, and it's unfortunate, and maybe now it's fortunate that we're finally, as a city, doing that. We probably, as a city, should have done that years ago, but we are doing it now. We're growing as a city with the future growth area, so there's implications, and I don't know what that means in terms of when that assessment's done, how you change allocations of personnel and number of stations, or you know, how you're going to change your response times. What's entailed in the standards of coverage that you're looking at, and hopefully the results will be out soon for you to analyze.
Obviously, standards of coverage is very important to lead a fire department. And it's basically showing us, our community, what we should be doing. Can we hit it all? Probably not. But it gives us a lot of statistical information, data, information, an analysis of what a fire department should be doing. But it allows me as a fire chief to look at what we have, how we provide service, and make adjustments as the best that we can to improve that. You're right. Ultimately, this city growing is going to affect our department and our city. Now is the perfect time to do a standards of coverage with the opportunities of the city. This is perfect timing. If it would have been done, for example, 5 years ago, we would have to do another one today. And we're in good timing with the possibility of growth happening here in the next couple of years. This is a great opportunity for our firefighters and our city to see what we need to do, what it will cost us, and then start that plan to plan for the future so that, so to speak, a future generation, another 20 years from now, our city is being covered by the fire department, police department, all that. And that's what standards of coverage for our fire department will give us information, as well as our firefighters, where we should be in the future, but it'll also give us some steps on what to do.
So one of your other challenges as the new chief is to look at how well positioned your organization is organizationally, you know, the kinds of divisions, responsibilities, who's in charge of what, and that's a pretty large order to look at. I think you have over 100 staff right now, or have authorized 100 plus positions. So are you starting to look at that, and how's that going in terms of, you know, what you're seeing so far?
Sure. Basically, the quick analysis after a couple weeks is we're doing a lot. And our firefighters are working very hard with a lot of different programs. And it really stems from regulations,
Mm-hmm.
required training, required equipment to perform our job. And that can be very complex. And there's also other services that we provide to our neighbors that increases our responsibility. And our firefighters do an excellent job. We help our neighbors out in a moment's notice. And that's that component that we need to evaluate and make sure we're not overextending ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And if we are, we need to evaluate and readjust.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there are some programs that we may or may not, but it's really an evaluation of, are we doing too much?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And what do we need to provide our citizens that live here and visit Salinas, as well as our neighbors? And ultimately, as a fire chief, I am kind of a CEO of this
Right.
department.
Right.
And so I need to take an overall look. And I think it's important to leave that open with the firefighters, engage them, and talk to them about what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's too big of a project, whether
Right.
it's a project we're not really using, and then that's that component of reevaluating. But ultimately, the goal is to engage them
Mm-hmm.
as well as the community, and keep those doors open as to what we're providing. But it's also really important our neighbors, state of California,
Mhm.
you know, Cal OES, to say
Right.
this is what we can provide and this is what we can't.
Mm-hmm.
The more we provide, the more cost.
Right.
And that's the component, that's my responsibility as the CEO, ultimately the fire chief,
Mm-hmm.
to make sure we're at a balanced budget.
Right.
And that's can be difficult,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also my responsibility. And I think that our personnel are very aware,
Mm-hmm.
and they're very willing to engage and help out and give their opinions on where they would like to see this department go. And that's very important.
Right. So what are some of the other things you'll be tackling now that you've been here a few weeks? I mean, you have, it's like, as I hate to say this, but it's like drinking from a fire hose, right? And trying to absorb all the different programs and the people and, the community and the council and other department directors. What are you seeing so far in terms of where you might be focused in
Sure.
terms of your responsibilities as a CEO?
Well, as bringing up the fire hose, I feel like a sponge that's overwatered in a good way.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it's getting out in the community. Right now, I'm trying to meet the firefighters, let them meet me,
Right.
the department heads, and now slowly the city council members.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's the opportunity that I get out there, and I invite our crews to get out there, and they participate a lot in the community.
Mm-hmm.
And then be a part of the community. But that's that get out there, meet the different groups, different events. And the exciting part and the thankful part I have right now is I'm being invited daily to new
Great.
events.
Great.
People are reaching out in the community as well as within the city. And so that's for me, very warm, welcoming opportunity. I just hope I don't miss any other opportunities, and I've asked the community to reach out to me, and I'll do the best I can. And ultimately, it's sharing that responsibility with our staff, our administration, within the department, and they're very willing and very helpful to introduce me and get me out there and remind me where I should be and what events are very special to this community. I'll use the example of the firefighters doing the Easter egg hunt out at the fire station, which was phenomenal. It was a huge success within the community. A small gesture of time and getting out in the community really created a warm, fun environment, a safe environment for the kids and the families to visit the fire station. And the fire station is ultimately a part of the community, and we welcome anyone to come by the fire station when we're there, and obviously they're very busy, but that's their home as well. And so I applaud the firefighters for putting that program on. That was amazing. I'm sorry I missed it, but hopefully one day I can wear that Easter Bunny outfit.
There you go. So one of the other challenges, obviously, at least from where I sit, is when you do your hiring, how well the new personnel reflects the community, both in terms of gender, ethnicity, and other kinds of different diversity, right? And that seems to be, one of the strengths of our city is its diversity, and and that's something to build on. So I know it's a little early, but is that something you're going to be tackling as well?
Well, I think it's already internally as far as the interest of our firefighters to get local folks to work for Salinas.
Right.
And ultimately, it's going to the high schools and really getting out there, the community colleges, and showing what we do, how hard we work, what a great job it is, and basically being a part of the community is ultimately important. It's nationwide, California, it's very difficult to hire female firefighters. And it's a trend that's going on, and we have ideas, our personnel have ideas, and I think that's something that we will look into and get out there. Our police department has done a great job, and that's a model to follow. But ultimately, it is difficult to hire within a local area. Years ago, for example, in the 90s, there could be 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 people apply for firefighter jobs. Multiple ethnic backgrounds, male, females. Now we're lucky to get 500 for a major city apply. And it's very complex. The training, the requirements, the paramedic certification is difficult to get. But also our trend for youth is not necessarily as interested in the fire service. And so we need to motivate our local young adults to come work for the city of Salinas in all aspects of government, but especially fire and police. And that's how we can get out to the schools, be a part of the programs, invite them to the fire stations, and show them what we do. And it is a fun job. It's a very difficult job, but there are a lot of opportunities for growth internally, but also opportunities to give back to the community, and that's one thing our fire department can do.
So when you moved over, is it what you expected as the new chief of the Salinas Fire Department, or is it a little bit different than what maybe you expected?
Sure. I was very nervous when I came over. Obviously working for a department, one department for 22 years, I was very comfortable. I knew everybody, they knew me, I knew how to get to work, I knew what projects were happening, and now I've been here for a couple weeks and I feel very comfortable. Still in a overwhelmed state of gratitude, a support of my staff and the firefighters in the community, and that's been my greatest gift, is just the welcoming appreciation of being here. And so that's the part for me is I feel safe now, not nervous, and I feel excited, and I want to start running to try to get all these projects, but I know it's going to be difficult, and we have a very strong administration staff. Our firefighters are very willing to help me to succeed. Our fire department is very well known, a very strong, professional, safe fire department, and that's the opportunity I have is to work with our firefighters to improve what they have, but ultimately it's making sure they're good. It's the component in the fire service that's just coming out is mental health for firefighters. And so that's that component, cancer. And so that's that gift that I would like to bring and to help support our personnel, which eventually helps their families and helps them internally in the department. And so that's that exciting opportunity. I have a lot of opportunities here, but it's only because our department is very good.
How's the specific reception by other departments? So much is done in our city because it's large. You have to sort of get together and work as a team in many ways. So, some of the issues at fire might be other causes from other departments are involved in other causes. Could be homelessness issues. It could be, like you say, mental health issues that get other departments, other agencies involved. What's the reception of, particularly the directors, your counterparts in the city?
It's an amazing what government work does is everybody works very well together. And although we may make a mistake or we do something different, there's really that sense of working together for the ultimate goal of our community. And we all recover well from those incidents, and we keep going on, and we learn from every event, and we get a little bit better for the next time. And although those may be challenges, they're not anything that creates difficulties or problems within the departments. It's really about, oh, all right, let me help you out, we'll help you out, and we'll do better next time. Because ultimately that's what we provide citywide is to our community, and that's what our responsibility is. And it's been very easy to deal with issues for our interdepartment events.
Great. So, next few weeks, next few months, what's your outlook? What steps are you going to be taking specifically?
So basically, I'm looking at setting up my schedule, meetings that I need to be at, as well as community events,
Right.
learning members of the community, and then really looking at our internal organization, our administrative staff, and looking at those positions and how they work currently and what we could have in the future. And that's that potential growth or reorganization, but also evaluating our responses that we provide the community to not only improve services, but ultimately relieve some of the additional calls our personnel are going to that maybe we could go to, but maybe not as much. But there are still those evaluations. And that's really where I work with our staff to see what's going on, how we can improve, and they have good ideas as well, and that's what I'm looking forward to. From there, it'll be evaluating what our department is doing and how we can adjust that, but as well as the complexity of wildland season and how that affects our staffing, injuries internally, and see how we can improve that, the health and wellness of our personnel, how we can improve our staffing levels, and really start that recruitment locally, but also to fill positions that we have open. And that's that component of that needs to happen. But we also have internal promotions, testing, that is very important to keep our personnel motivated and invest in our personnel.
Well, we'll have to check on you in a few months
Sure.
to come have you come be our guest again. But it's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
And I think the city of Salinas is very honored to have your presence and your leadership, because you've been a proven leader in Watsonville. And it looks like, you know, you have lots on the plate, but you'll be able to tackle it all. You have a very good style, and we like what we see in terms of how you're interacting with not only the city family, but the community as well.
Well, I have a lot of meeting to do, and I'm looking forward to it, and I encourage anybody to give us a call or send me an email, and we'll get you on the calendar. It's an honor to be here. I'm very humbled to be here. I do have to say that coming from Watsonville, I learned a lot from there, from the similarities, and I feel like that will benefit us here in Salinas, and our working relationship with our firefighters and our community has been a pleasure, and so I'm happy that we're all working together for the same goal.
Well, that's great. Again, thank you for taking time to be on the show, and we look forward to seeing you again, Pablo.
Thank you. I appreciate that.